Imagine looking at Earth from deep space. You've got this brilliant blue sphere, right? Wrapped in swirling white clouds, covered in vast green forests and deep, deep oceans. Now, pan over and look at our neighbors. Venus is a literal hellscape of carbon dioxide, hot enough to melt lead. And Mars? It's basically a freezing, barren rock. So what makes Earth so radically different? I mean, is it just dumb luck? Or is our planet, in some profound way, actually operating like a giant, self-regulating living system? Welcome to this explainer on the Gaia Hypothesis, easily one of the most fascinating and definitely one of the most fiercely debated scientific ideas of the 20th century. So let's start with a really fundamental question. Why is Earth's atmosphere so strangely unbalanced compared to Venus and Mars? Because from a strictly chemical perspective, if physical laws were the only things running the show on Earth, our atmosphere should have reached a dead, boring equilibrium billions of years ago. Gases like oxygen and methane are highly reactive. They should just cancel each other out and completely vanish. Yet they don't. They remain in this dynamic, highly unstable, but absolutely life-sustaining imbalance. And why? Simply because life itself is constantly replenishing them. Okay, let's dive into this. We're going to unpack this whole mystery in 4 parts. First, is Earth alive? Second, Earth's self-regulating engine. Third, the whole strong versus weak Gaia debate. And finally, our future with Gaia. Part 1. Is Earth alive? Well, to figure that out, we have to look back at how this whole theory was born. Interestingly enough, the origins of this theory didn't actually start with studying Earth at all. Back in the 1960s, a brilliant, fiercely independent scientist named James Lovelock was working with the space agency. He was trying to solve a really tricky problem: how to detect life on other planets. He realized that if life exists anywhere, it's going to radically alter its planet's atmosphere. And this led him to a core game-changing idea. Life actively modifies its environment to maintain conditions suitable for life. Basically, life doesn't just passively adapt to its surroundings, it actively shapes them. Now, Lovelock's friend, the novelist William Golding, actually suggested the incredibly poetic name Gaia, named after the Greek earth goddess. But to elevate this from poetry into rigorous science, Lovelock teamed up with the legendary evolutionary biologist Lynn Margulis. She's the one who provided the actual biological mechanics, proving that invisible tiny microorganisms are the true planetary engineers doing all the heavy lifting. Part 2. Earth's self-regulating engine. Now, you might be wondering, if Earth is a self-regulating system, how does this actually occur without some sort of planetary brain or a hidden control room? The answer lies in this absolutely beautiful scientific concept called emergence. Emergence is basically when simple interactions give rise to complex, highly organized behavior. Think about a busy city traffic system for a second. No single person controls every movement, right? There's no giant central brain directing every single car. And yet, the traffic flows, the electricity somehow reaches homes, food arrives at the grocery store seamlessly. The city organizes itself through millions of independent, tiny actions. Gaia proposes that Earth does the exact same thing, just on a massive, planetary scale. To really grasp how this works, we have to look at Earth's 4 great systems. We've got the atmosphere, which is all the gases, the hydrosphere, the water, the geosphere, the rocks, and the biosphere, the living organisms. Now, it's crucial to remember these aren't just isolated boxes. They are constantly exchanging energy and matter. If you change just one of these spheres, you inevitably alter the others. I mean, trees pull carbon straight from the air, rain moves nutrients into the soil, and volcanoes literally inject sulfur from deep rocks right back into the sky. It's all connected. And when you look at our atmospheric breakdown, 78% nitrogen, 21% oxygen, and trace gases like carbon dioxide and methane at about 1%, this protective blanket is an absolute planetary achievement. To put that into perspective, if you visited Earth 2.5 billion years ago, you would suffocate immediately. There was pretty much zero oxygen. It was only when tiny photosynthetic microbes started pumping out oxygen during the Great Oxidation Event that Earth's chemistry was permanently transformed. Life quite literally created the air we're breathing right now. And it's wild to watch how this builds across the planet. Forests don't just sit there storing carbon. Massive areas like the Amazon recycle such huge amounts of water that they create what scientists call flying rivers, generating their own massive rainfall. Meanwhile, the oceans are out there absorbing enormous quantities of heat and carbon dioxide, acting as this great planetary stabilizer. And beneath all of it, billions of unseen microbes, I mean literally billions in just a single teaspoon of soil, are fixing nitrogen, consuming methane, and even releasing sulfur compounds that float up and actually form clouds. It's a dizzying number of interactions that prove living things don't just quietly respond to the climate, they actively create it. But how in the world does it all stay stable? Well, it all comes down to feedback loops. Negative feedback counteracts change. Think of it as nature's steady stabilizer. It's like when your body gets too hot, you sweat, and that calmly cools you down. Earth does this too. For instance, when things get warmer, increased plant growth predictably kicks in to suck up that excess warming carbon dioxide. On the flip side, we have positive feedback, which rapidly amplifies change. Think of melting Arctic sea ice. When the white ice melts, dark ocean water is exposed, which absorbs way more solar heat, which then instantly melts even more ice. It's a dangerous, accelerating cycle. To prove that this kind of self-regulation doesn't require some master plan, Lovelock created a really clever mathematical thought experiment called Daisy World. Imagine a planet covered entirely in just black and white daisies. As the sun brightens over time, the black daisies absorb heat, warming up the cool planet. But as the planet gets a bit too warm, the white daisies suddenly start to thrive, and they reflect the heat away. Without any intelligence, without any planning, the changing balance of daisies automatically regulates the planet's temperature. And this brilliantly illustrates how planetary regulation can happen entirely through basic evolution and feedback. Part 3, strong versus weak Gaia. Because, as you might imagine, when Lovelock first proposed that the Earth behave this way, the scientific community pushed back. And I mean, they pushed back hard. The core of the scientific pushback was really rooted in Darwinian evolution. Natural selection relies on competing individuals surviving and passing on their genes, right? So, evolutionary biologists argued, quite reasonably by the way, that since there is only one Earth, it obviously can't be competing with other planets. So how on earth could an entire planet evolve as one single unit? The whole mechanism just seemed to conflict with the established, proven rules of biology. To resolve this tension, scientists essentially split the concept into two distinct camps. You have strong Gaia, which is the idea that Earth is a purposeful, conscious superorganism. Mainstream science completely rejects this. There is simply no evidence of a planetary intention or consciousness. But then you have weak Gaia, which suggests that life and the environment continuously influence each other through system feedbacks without any intent at all, simply producing an emergent stability. And it's this evidence-based weak Gaia interpretation that is heavily relied upon today. In fact, it forms the absolute foundation of modern Earth system science. Which brings us to our final section, Part 4, Our Future with Gaia. Because we are currently living in the Anthropocene, an era where human activity is pushing these ancient, finely tuned regulatory boundaries to their absolute limits. Now, before we look ahead, we need to explicitly bust some major myths floating around out there. First, Earth is not literally alive. It is a complex, self-organizing system. Second, the media loves to say things like, Gaia is fighting back through severe weather. That is scientifically incorrect. Earth has no intentions, and it certainly holds no grudges. Severe weather is simply atmospheric physics responding directly to the greenhouse gases we emit. And finally, Gaia definitely does not mean humans can't damage the Earth. We absolutely can, and currently are, severely disrupting these delicate planetary boundaries. Looking at the data up through June 2026, the scientific consensus is incredibly clear on Gaia's enduring legacy. Advanced climate models today entirely depend on biological feedbacks. They literally can't predict the future without factoring in the forests, the oceans, and the microbes. We also know that pushing these systems too far can cross tipping points, causing devastating, irreversible changes. And, beautifully, Lovelock's original idea, looking for biosignatures in a planet's atmosphere, is exactly how modern astrobiology guides our ongoing search for extraterrestrial life today. Now, what's really interesting about this is this staggering statistic. 99%. More than 99% of all species that have ever lived on Earth have gone extinct. The dinosaurs didn't make it. Countless millions of other species didn't make it. And yet, the biosphere itself, the grand emergent system, has persisted for 3.5 billion years. Gaia is really about the survival of the whole system, not necessarily any one particular species. Which brings us to the ultimate question. The central lesson of the Gaia hypothesis is that life doesn't merely exist on Earth. Life actively helps create the kind of Earth on which it can continue to exist. We are a part of that brilliant emergent system, but right now we are rapidly changing the rules. Make no mistake, the Earth will survive us.
It has survived asteroid impacts, ice ages, and massive volcanic eruptions. But the real question is, can humanity survive the Earth we are currently creating? That is a question we're going to have to answer, and very soon.